I'd like to talk today about how you can use blogs as an effective communication tools for the digital enterprise. And before I begin, I do want to ask one question of the audience to get a better idea of who you are and sort of where you're coming from. So I would like to know how many of you are involved actively at your company with creating, editing, reviewing the blogs for your company. Are there people any marketing people? Yes? A few? 4? Okay, great. Now, I asked that for the public-facing things, the things that you're publishing on your website for public websites. Are there any of you who are using blogs as an internal communication tool as part of your intranet, as part of the internal communication you do within your company? Any hands? Okay, 1. Now, the last question is, are there any of you who actually maintain a personal blog? And this would be a blog about any topic that you like, that you talk about, that you maintain, whether it is to inform your family of what's going on or, because you're very interested in a topic. Anybody here maintain a personal blog? Okay, good to know. Well, I think in 2016, it's fair to say that we're at a place where blogs are everywhere. They're ubiquitous. Whether you're an individual blogging or a small business or a large enterprise, blogs are probably a part of what you have to deal with. This guy here, his name is Pat Flynn, and he's made over $3 million just writing his blog. And what he writes about in his blog is what he calls smart passive income, how you can make money essentially doing things like creating a blog. And for small businesses, one way that the internet has really leveled the playing field is that your content is out there just like any of your larger competitors, and you're competing for the same attention. And I think being out there on the web, people don't go to your store. If they see you digitally, your presence can be as prominent or even more important than that of your larger competitors. And of course, if you're a large enterprise, you're probably using blogs for multiple purposes, whether it's for, public engagement with your customers or internal for engaging your employees. And so what I want to really focus on today is discussing the different ways that you can use blogs to enhance your communication strategy, using digital marketing and the digital workplace as 2 specific use cases that would be important for any company to have to really have a good strategy around. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with digital marketing. Now, why is digital marketing so important? I'm not sure if this is actually culturally relevant here in Italy, but what this is a picture of is in the United States, this is called a fire hydrant, and they're located in any street where you have houses. And what essentially that fire hydrant does is it allows firemen, if there's a fire, to be able to pull their truck up, attach their hose to the fire hydrant so that they can get a supply of water to be able to put out fires in any of the homes that are in the affected neighborhoods. So that's what this is an image of. And I thought this was a really great quote from this guy named Mitchell Kapoor. And he basically said, getting information off of the internet is like trying to take a drink of water from a fire hydrant. And you can see how difficult and challenging that would be. And of course, he's talking about the fact that there's just so much content out there that it's impossible almost to find what you're looking for. And even once you've found it, know whether it's a credible source. And so one of the things your company has to deal with is, with this world where the content is saturated and there's so much information, how are you going to stand out? And the other thing that you need to really be careful about is information that's out there and presented there that's really not very credible. So while I was in the U.S. a couple months ago, I picked up the new iPhone 7. And I'm not sure how many of you guys have bought the new iPhone 7? No, not yet? Okay. Well, if you look very closely here, one of the things that's missing, as most of you know, is the audio jack. There's no audio jack, so it's missing. So what this one person, Maximuk, has done is he's basically provided this YouTube video that went viral. And he basically said, okay, if you guys are missing the audio jack in the iPhone 7, if you drill a hole right here, you'll be able to have your audio jack again. And of course, it was one of the videos in a long list of pranks where this doesn't work. There's no audio jack by drilling the hole. You basically made a bunch of people who fell for this prank to drill their phone and break it. And so there's a lot of information out there that may be good, that may be bad. And the challenge for your company is going to be, with all this information, with all this stuff that people could be seeing, how can I get my potential customers to listen to me, to follow me online, and be able to capture their attention early on? So I want to talk about this company. It's a company called Moz, and one of the things that they do is they actually help provide a software tool that helps with search engine optimization. And we actually use this tool at Liferay, and the way we ended up becoming a customer of Moz is some of our marketing people would go to their blog to find out about the latest trends for search engine optimization. And while they're reading all this content about search engine optimization, that doesn't really have to do a lot with their product, but it has to do with what are the things you need to do to make sure that your website stays relevant. They kept going back because it was good content that Moz was producing. And eventually, that made them aware of the product that Moz sold and influenced their decision to actually purchase that product. So here, we see that if you're blogging, not about your products, but about, what solutions or answers your customer might be looking for, there's a lot of benefits. And I'll just summarize it in 3 things. 1, it increases traffic to your website. And then it allows you to establish authority in your domain. Are you a thought leader? Do you really know what you're talking about? Because if you can prove that, then there's a greater chance that people will buy your products. And of course, finally, it's a great tool for generating leads and nurturing those leads. Here's another product that we actually use at Liferay. It's called Tableau. And it helps you with analytics and helps you gain insight in any of the data that you have. And, our marketing people really like this product because when they go to their blogs, they're able to find out how to make the most out of the product that we have. It helps us gain more insight into making better decisions for Liferay. And it's all driven by the content that they blog about. And what you'll also find is that businesses who blog more, they acquire more customers. And it's not just about acquiring customers, it's about retaining them and keeping them engaged in a conversation. Because once you've sold your product and you're not helping your customers understand how to get the most value out of it, guess what? Your competitors are going to try to get in there. Try to show them how their product might be better. And if you're not in a constantly updating and engaging with your customers, you're leaving an opportunity there for your competitors. So this is a picture of a big box store in Madrid. I actually live in Spain. But there's so many of these big box stores in the United States. I'm not too sure what the market is like here in Italy, but if you wanted to go out and buy, let's say, a faucet, generally, if you go to any of the big box stores, why do people go there? Because it's going to be the lowest price that you can find. And the way that they're able to have the lowest price available is that they buy in so much bulk for their stores. And so they're able to really lower down that price, negotiate with their suppliers to be able to provide the lowest price for their customers. And so if you're a smaller company and you can't get those same prices by negotiating with your suppliers, how do you compete with these box stores? And so one of my friends actually started looking for a faucet, and he went to the big box store, and he was frustrated because he couldn't find anybody who really knew anything about the faucets. They were all busy, and part of the big box store experience is you rarely find people that know what they're talking about, because these are people that they've hired like last week, last month, and they're always having an overturn of employees. So he decided to go to his small local hardware store, where the person had been working there and was the owner of the store and had had that store for the last 20 years. And what he learned from that person in the local hardware store was, you're getting what you pay for. Because the big box stores are negotiating so hard with their vendors about lowering the price for their customers, the internal parts that they use for their faucets are all made out of plastic. But the faucets that he has from the same vendors cost more, but the internal components are actually made of brass. They're made of metal. They're made of materials that are built to last. So even though you're paying more in price, you're able to purchase a higher quality product that will last much longer. And when my friend was able to learn this, he decided to pay more money to buy the higher quality product and buy through his local hardware store versus going to the big box stores. And that's a in-store example of the things that you could be doing digitally to be able to really stand out among all the information that's there. And the most important thing, I think, that I would say as part of that story is that people will end up buying from companies that they trust. So online, if you're able to provide thought leadership, if you're able to provide solutions to your customers and build that trust and relationship, what you'll find is that customers will naturally want to buy from you because they trust you. So how are we here, 2016, at a place where trust is such a big thing? And, we don't have to look too far back in terms of how marketing has progressed over the years. So I'm going to take a journey back for the last maybe 40 years, back in the 1980s. I'm not sure if you remember this, but back in the 1980s, I remember going to the mailbox. So one of the things that my parents made me do as a kid for my chores is I would have to walk to the front of the house, get all the mail, and bring it into the house. And it was also my job to sort through the mail and find out what's the junk mail and what's the real mail. What are the bills we need to pay? What are the things my parents need to see? And what's the stuff that's just junk? And over time, what you found was that like 90% of the mail that was being sent to you was junk mail. And I would throw them out without even opening them. And what a waste for all these companies, thinking that the best way to effectively reach me was to send me mail that I didn't even open, that I just tossed and threw away. What a waste of paper and what a waste of resources for that company. Well, the 1990s weren't that much better. We saw the rise of online marketing. We saw, email spam. We saw, this great way of being able to reach an entire audience. So back in the 80s, what did people do to try and market to people? They bought physical addresses. They bought names and their physical addresses so they'd have a mailing list. In the 1990s, what did companies start buying? They started buying email addresses, right? Because they wanted to spam and target all these users, hoping that, and if you're wondering why people still spam nowadays, It's because it still works. There's still 1% of people who will actually buy from you, actually click on something, actually do what you want them to do. Now, it comes at the cost of upsetting 99% of the other people you send stuff to, but you can argue that it still works. And in the 2000s, what we saw was people say, hey, sending all this random emails out to these people, these email lists that we bought, that's not really working. They started looking to content marketing. This is where the content was more personalized for users. It hopefully related to any problem that they were trying to solve. And we also saw the rise of this stuff with inbound marketing. And that's where the content marketing, where being able to talk about and help your users and build that trust started. And I think today that kind of summarizes where we are. We're in a place of relational marketing. It's a place where the thing that is going to allow you to have success, to have a really good digital marketing or content strategy, is going to define the difference between success and failure. Because if you can't reach out to your potential customers and establish some sort of relationship and trust, it's going to be very hard for them to buy anything for you. So I'd like to tell you a personal story of how this even impacted me. So one of the things I'll show you here is my wallet, and it's really small. It's basically the size of a credit card. If you look, I have all my credit cards here. I have a little strip for holding money belt for cash, and that's pretty much it. It's a really small wallet. And the reason that I bought this wallet was because I travel a lot. I travel all over the world, and having bulky things in my pockets, it just is really inconvenient. So when I started looking for, how can I slim down my wallet, because my wallet used to look like that, this is a company called Bellroy. You would think I came across their company by some search for, small wallets, but I didn't. I was looking for how to pack my clothes when I travel a lot better. And they had this page, this blog that talked about when you're traveling a lot and you need to get as much of your clothes, as much of your things into a suitcase, what's the most efficient way to pack? So they talk about rolling clothing instead of folding them so that you have more optimal space. They talk about having a pen somewhere nearby for when you have to fill out your immigration forms. They even talk about, depending on where you're traveling, to carry a decoy wallet, a fake wallet. So if someone, mugs you or robs you, you can give them your fake wallet instead of your real one with all your money and credit cards, which, I find to be interesting for, some of the places I visit where it's maybe not as safe. So for me, buying a wallet was a journey where I didn't start with saying, hey, I need a smaller wallet. It started with, I need to solve this problem. I need to be more efficient at packing because I would rather have my bag overhead instead of checked into the plane, because every time I travel, that's an extra hour, 30 minutes checking in, 30 minutes waiting for my bag, that I have to waste. But if I could learn how to travel light into something that can fit over the luggage compartment, then that would save me a bunch of time. And then it was actually a blog that was created by this company that actually creates these wallets that are slimmed down as well. And as read that article, it led me to look at their product and get a good sense that they understand my problem. They understand me as a person because they're giving me this good advice. They must know how to build the best wallet for me. And so I ended up buying a wallet from them. Okay. So I enjoy talks where people talk about anecdotes and stories and things that are going on, but I always like it when they are actually backed by some amount of numbers or graphs or evidence. So, here's some stuff that I pulled off, and the source is right there. But here's the problem that we have. So, in 2016, when B2B marketers were surveyed, 60% of them said that their most challenging thing will be producing engaging content because they're trying to reach out to their customers. 57% said measuring that effectiveness of that content will be a challenge. And then 57% also said doing that and doing it consistently over time is going to be their problem or is going to be their challenge. So what you see here is that, a lot of companies are realizing the benefits of producing this engaging content, this content marketing, and they're putting a lot of effort into being able to do that, measuring it and doing it successfully over time. And 45% of marketers, not B2B marketers, but marketers in general, are saying that blogging will be their number one most important strategy for content. And 69% of them actually plan to increase their use of blogging this year. And the final fact that I think really impresses me is that marketers in the past who have prioritized blogging are 13 times more likely to achieve a positive ROI on their efforts. Okay. So that's some of the data that I think is really compelling and really shows that there's this, of course, trend for content marketing and how marketers are understanding that the best way to engage with their users is by providing them content that's useful, that they need, and ultimately establishes that trust in the relationship with their customers. So that's pretty much blogs for the digital enterprise. I want to switch gears here and talk about blogs for the digital workplace. Now, if you're familiar with any intranet, intranets I think of the past were very much about management saying, hey, we need to make sure that all our employees, if they're across 14 or 15 different offices, are all in sync and that we're communicating and that they understand, strategy shifts or things that are going on in the company. And so in the past, what you saw was, intranets being used as a way of pushing information top down from management, from people who were making decisions down to people that it affected. But that was a one-way communication. And when intranets matured, what they found was that, if we enable collaboration, if we not only think of communication as one way, but that communication can be bidirectional, you can produce a much more productive workforce. You can produce a workforce that's far more engaged in the things that are going on with your company. So I think blogs are a really effective way of communicating messages within any organization, and it can be an effective way of starting a conversation to encourage collaboration within your company. So the example I want to talk about is actually a Liferay customer, and it's a customer in Germany called Schott. And this guy, his name is Jörg Dürr, and he's the communications manager there. And what they created with Liferay was an intranet, and it was an intranet that they decided to launch. And one of the features that they actually enabled was blogs. And they wanted to use the blogs because they had people in all these different offices, and they wanted to be able to see if they can ideate and come up with new ideas and come up with new solutions across all these people that were across all these different countries. And so they took an approach of where they said, okay, let's do a trial run. Let's select some people and see how this works. And the result of that was shortly after they launched the platform, a team of 14 people across different disciplines, different departments, geographies, hierarchies, rankings within that company, they came up with a new idea. And that new idea and the communication and collaboration that they did was eligible for patent protection after 2 months of when they launched. And that's a really powerful story of the power of collaboration and really being able to get the most out of your workforce by allowing them to think up of new ideas, to collaborate, to really be productive. And I know that the shot example here is actually not a common one. A lot of times, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this movie. It's a shot of a movie called Field of Dreams. And in it, Kevin Costner keeps hearing this thing where someone tells him, if you build it, they will come. If you build it, they will come. And what they're talking about is if you build a baseball field, players will come. And a lot of times, I think companies treat their intranets the very same way. They think, hey, if we build an intranet, if we build a platform for collaboration, our employees will start doing it, and they'll start building things. They'll start collaborating. Unfortunately, it only works in movies. The thing that you really have to understand as you're trying to do this in the digital workplace is you really need to have a team culture around collaboration. You need an executive sponsor who is pushing for this collaboration to happen within your enterprise. You need to understand what are the pillars of culture that we need to set up within our company to be able to really promote this culture of collaboration. So, that's one note I want to make. Don't forget about that. Tools like Liferay are great, but what's far more important is the culture, is the governance. It's the structure, the relationships that you put behind it that will make any tool successful. Another story is this company called American Electric Power, and they consider employee engagement to be one of their top business imperatives. They think that without engaging employees, it's almost impossible to execute on any business strategy because everyone, if they're swimming in different directions, it's not going to get your company to where you want it to be. So this is the one quote that I really love about what they've done with collaboration. They say, once you engage employees, people get really excited and passionate about investing in the success of your company. Once they understand and have more ownership about the things that are going on and feel that they have a voice, that really empowers them to be able to make a difference for their own careers, but also for your company as well. So we talked about blogs and how they can be useful for digital marketing, for digital workplace. I want to end this with giving you at least an understanding of what Liferay can do in terms of our blogs for the enterprise. What does Liferay offer? I'm going to start with this video that kind of shows Liferay 7 blogs. We redid the whole user experience of how blogs are created. And so you're easily able to see the blog as you're writing it, what it will actually appear like. We invested a lot in our LOA editor. It's very easy to be able to create content here. And what you'll see here is our integration with our image selector, where you can easily select images and then preview them in the space. You can order them and view them differently by different ways of listing them. And ultimately, you can be able to select an image and then view the other images in the high-res form as well. So let's imagine we'll go ahead and choose one of these images. Oh, and we also have the file info there, additional metadata. We choose this one. And there it is, all integrated into that blog in a very easy way to be able to create it. Because ultimately, I think one of the barriers to be able to create this content is, the people who need to actually create it. Let's make the tool as useful as possible so that you remove the barrier of creating the content, so then you can do the marketing and engagement with that content. The other thing that we considered as we built out our blogs was is it going to be suitable in a mobile device? So mobile first was the way that we designed the blogs. We thought about how can blogs be viewed and interacted with within a mobile device. And then as we got to bigger screens, tablets, laptops, we obviously decided to allow for greater features and functionality, but we all started first with that mobile device. And what you'll find is that our blogs have been designed optimally for mobile devices. We also improved the commenting system. So it allows the user to focus on what they want to write while visualizing the final style. Comments can now automatically detect links as well. And we have support for mentions where you can use an @ and mention other users. So again, this is more probably for blogs within a social internet capacity, but we've added both of those capabilities. For blogs also, I know blogs is an important piece of content, but with Liferay, when we look at all the different ways that you can actually create content, we want to make sure that you can make use of being able to relate the blogs that you're creating to other existing content that you may already have. So for example, if you have a blog about a product launch or a blog about anything that's relating to a date, you can actually relate that calendar event, other PDFs, other documents, other blog entries to that blog so that you can really have a richer experience with the content that you have already existing. The other thing that you want to really be able to be aware of is there are certain trends in the industry that say on Monday, it's going to be the day where most people will most likely read a blog. So in your publishing cycle, maybe that means that the majority of your blogs, because you want to continually provide new content, is done on Monday. But you also see that on Thursdays is when blogs or content is most shared through social networks. So maybe that means on Thursday you want a couple of blogs published on that day to give your users content to be able to share. And I think the important thing to really understand here is these trends end up changing over time. I remember at one point it used to be Tuesday, not Monday. But as you keep up to date with these things, what Liferay's flexibility in terms of our workflow and staging and publishing allows you to do is change these things as those things change in the world. What we're looking in terms of the future for blogs is this concept of engagement metrics. So we really want for both the digital marketing and the digital workplace story to be able to provide you with more metrics around the engagement of either your employees or your customers to help you understand what content is working, what content isn't working, how can I optimize the content for my users. You know, one of the challenges that I have, even being VP of product, is I may write a blog and it may be about what I would consider an exciting new piece of information about a product that we're launching or an update to a product that we have. And what's really important is that I want to ensure that everyone out there who's talking about Liferay, who's engaged with our customers, who's on the front end of customer service for Liferay, have read this blog so that when they're engaged with their customers, they can share that excitement of the things that are going on with our product. And maybe what Liferay can provide is a way in which I can see among all the different departments in Liferay, what is the percentage of users within that department that have read this. For example, then I can select the sales and our support team and our account managers and see that, you know, only 50% of them overall have read it. I can send them another email reminder or some other type of notification to say, hey, I'm not sure if you're aware, but this is really important. It would be great if you could share this with your customers. Please read this. And there'll be some type of notification through various ways, whether it's through email or otherwise. And those are the kind of problems that we want to help solve, to really be able to think through how can you engage better with not only your customers, but with your employees as well. The other thing on our roadmap, and this is related to blogs, but it's actually even beyond blogs, and it's this whole concept of adaptive media. I know that in the blog video that you saw, you were able to actually add an image to that blog. Well, that's great if it's on the desktop, but if it's through a mobile device, you really need to send a big file and then just only display this much. So one thing that we're thinking about is, can our media that we add to Liferay be adaptive? In other words, if Liferay DXP is smart enough to understand the channel, the place in which that media or that content will be displayed, can it optimize it for that, so that that same image that may be uploaded, that might be 10 megabytes in original size, if it's requested through a mobile, maybe we send a small version that's only 500 kilobytes and be able to do things like this. So those are some of the things that Liferay provides in terms of being able to use our blogs as an effective communication tool for your company. And I just want to end by saying that we're making a lot of effort, and we made a lot of effort with Liferay 7 to make it easy to create great content, particularly blogs. And what I want to remind you is that great content that you build really builds trust with your customers. And as we know in this content marketing age, is people really do buy from companies they trust. So I think what I really find exciting about Liferay, however, is that it is a platform for the digital enterprise. And as much as we talk about customers, we're happy that we're also able to use the same tool set to solve this problem of engagement with employees as well. Because we want a platform for you so that you can engage with your users across the entire customer and employee journey. Thank you very much.